I decide right now how worthy I am, and I don't leave this on somebody else's hands. You stop outsourcing your power by giving that power of somebody else choosing how worthy you are, and you start giving that power to yourself. It always has been in your power to decide if you're worthy or not. But you thought that somebody else's opinion is more valuable, is more important than what you think. You thought that your opinion didn't matter, but actually the most whole and complete opinion is that of yourself. People's approval will always be conditional, but the only person that you can rely on to give you unconditional approval, unconditional love, and someone to see you always as worthy and deserving is yourself. You know, so many of us have this illogical false impression that by chasing validation, we have more chances of being likable and therefore more likely to get into a relationship. And I say this impression is false and illogical because you don't really come to this conclusion through logical thinking and through common sense, but you actually come to this conclusion through compulsion. Compulsion to control the outcome and to force things to happen in a way that you desperately need them to unfold. So what happens is that you end up overthinking every text, you are replaying conversations in your head, you're asking yourself if you said the right thing, if you sounded interesting enough, or if you should just have stayed quiet. You start basically twisting yourself into knots and acting out in ways that are not authentic to yourself just to keep someone's attention. And the funny thing is that you don't even stop to ask if you actually like them. The whole thing becomes about whether or not they like you. And that is the trap of chasing validation. It feels like you are moving closer to love, but in reality, you're just moving further away from yourself. And the more you abandon yourself in the process, the more likely you are to end up in a relationship that feels wrong from the very start. So in this video, I'm going to teach you why chasing validation will always lead you into the wrong relationship and how you can stop the cycle so you can finally attract the kind of love that feels safe, feels secure, and feels real. And I know this because I used to live in that pattern. I thought that, you know what, if I could just prove myself worthy by being the most available, being the most understanding, the most giving person, I will finally be chosen in return. But as a result, all it ever got me was relationships and situations where I felt unseen, I felt anxious, and I felt drained. But once I broke free from that validation trap that so many of us fall under, everything literally changed. Because I finally stopped chasing people who couldn't meet me even halfway. I started communicating honestly, without any fear, and I learned how to hold my boundaries without guilt, without feeling I'm going to be abandoned. And that shift didn't just change how I showed up, it ended up changing also who I attracted, the quality of people that I attracted. And by doing that, as a result, now I'm in the most healthy long-term relationship that I have ever been, where honestly love feels calm, secure, and mutual. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I don't feel like I can't be myself. I don't feel like I can't express myself because I don't question my worth. I don't beg for that reassurance from another person because now I'm in a position where I trust the stability that we have built. And that peace and that sense of being fully accepted, fully seen, fully held by my person is something that my past self will have never believed that it was possible. It will have never believed that it was something that actually happens is in relationships. I thought that relationships was an endless battle of compromise, of one person overpowering another, using games, because I never thought that someone could genuinely accept you fully and wholly as you are. And so that's the real outcome of healing. You end up with a love that feels safe. You end up with a connection that doesn't drain you because it requires you to be someone else. And you end up in a relationship where you can actually finally be your whole, true, authentic self. And that's exactly what I want to help you build too. Because once I learned to break free from that validation trap, I was able to completely shift how I was showing up in love, how I was acting, how I was behaving. And today I want to help you do the same. So if you're ready to stop chasing validation that only leads you down the wrong relationships, let's get into this. The first thing that I want you to understand is that validation is a bottomless pit. When you chase validation, you are basically trying to fill an internal emptiness with external approval. But what you fail to understand is that validation from others is like you're trying to pour water and fill up a bucket that is full of holes. It never feels like it's going to be enough. It never feels like it's going to become full. And you feel like you keep needing more because it keeps running out. It keeps draining out from all of the holes. So basically, your reassurance bucket has holes in it. So no matter how much reassurance your partner might give you, you can't internalize it. It's impossible. So you are always in a state where you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You feel that reassurance is never enough. It never fills you up. It never satiates you. That hunger is exactly what pulls you into relationships with people who benefit from your insecurity. The problem with external validation that makes it so truly unfulfilling and unsustainable is that, first of all, you always have to rely on someone else to satisfy that need of yours. And secondly, even when you do get that validation, it will never satiate you and it will never cover you as completely and as wholly as when you validate yourself. So that means that as long as you cling to people to validate you, you will remain dependent on them and unsatisfied. So the end result of validation chasing is always going to be frustration. The second thing that you need to understand about validation is that it keeps you blind to any red flags. Chasing validation makes you focus on how much someone likes you instead of how they treat you, how they respect you. And so your focus is all wrong because you are devaluing yourself and you're overvaluing others. What happens is that you end up ignoring any red flags because your attention is locked in on keeping their attention, is locked in on impressing them, on making them like you and them approve you. And so as long as your goal is validation and approval, your mind will remain blind to all of the other red flags that are waving right in front of your eyes. And that is because that is not the task at hand. That is not the goal you have assigned to your mind, to your attention, to your focus. Your goal and your attention is solely focused on being attuned to that person's needs, to that person's wants, instead of being attuned to your needs and your wants. And so the moment you do that, you have already abandoned yourself. And you have abandoned yourself because your attention is on satisfying them in the detriment of satisfying and respecting yourself. The problem with validation is that you will end up trading authenticity for acceptance. Validation chasing forces you to shapeshift. You laugh at jokes that you don't actually find funny. You agree with things that you don't really believe in. You bend your boundaries just to keep someone close and keep them happy, keep them satisfied. But the truth is that the love you get while you're pretending is never going to satisfy you, because it's not you that they are loving. It's the mask that you put on. And I get it, it's one of the most important things that all of us are seeking from relationships is this unconditional acceptance, this unconditional love. So you think that if you accept that person as they are, even if they don't really align with you, then they are bound to see how understanding and accepting you are, and they're going to finally do the same. They're also going to accept you unconditionally. But the truth is, you are not really accepting nor loving that person unconditionally. Your love is very much conditional, because you do all of that for the purpose of getting validated, for the purpose and the condition of getting accepted in return. So in the end, it's very much give and take. At the end of the day, you never give the other person a real chance to see who you truly are. And deep down, you will always be left wondering if they will have loved the real you and what it will feel like when someone actually loves you for the real you. Chasing validation will always attract the wrong partners. People who are emotionally unavailable are very often drawn to validation seekers, and that is because it creates a very easy dynamic for them. They can just give you breadcrumbs and you will continue chasing, and so the cycle will keep repeating. That's why it feels like you're always ending up with the same type of partner. It's not random, but if you actually notice, it is a pattern. If you think about it, someone who isn't ready to give real love can still feel powerful when they see you working so hard for their approval, when they see you so hard working for their validation. They don't have to invest much, they just need to give you the bare minimum, and you're just gonna do all the heavy lifting for them. And because you're so focused on proving yourself worthy, you don't even notice that you do all of that. You put 90% and they put 10. Or you do notice, but you choose to ignore it. And you choose to ignore that lack of effort on their side. This is why you might find yourself constantly attracted to people who are very hot and cold, who are very inconsistent, or simply not available. It's not that you like the pain, it's not like you like suffering, but it's that your need for validation, it makes you more tolerant of it. It makes you more blind to it. So in a strange way, the chase itself becomes so familiar that it's almost addictive. And until you break the cycle, you will keep calling in the same kind of partner who feeds off that dynamic. And until you break the cycle, the chase itself becomes the whole relationship. And you will never get to experience that safety and that depth that you truly deserve. What you don't understand is that real connection doesn't come ever from chasing, but it comes from choosing. So the shift is this. Instead of asking, do they like me? Start asking, do I like how I feel around them? So this allows you to flip the script from seeking to choosing. And when you're able to choose, you show up differently. You are able to protect your boundaries. You trust yourself, and you naturally attract people who respect you. But when you're chasing, you are operating from fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being rejected, fear of being abandoned. And so your whole energy is focused on keeping them interested. But when you are choosing, you are operating from self-respect. You are paying attention to how you feel in their presence. Do I feel safe? Do I feel seen? Do I feel at peace? Or am I constantly anxious and second-guessing myself? And here's the most powerful part. The moment you start choosing, you are able to start showing up differently. You stop bending your boundaries just to be liked. You start trusting yourself to be able to walk away when something feels off. And because of that, you naturally start to attract people who respect you, people who value you, not for the masks that you wear, but for who you actually are. So real connections don't come from proving yourself that you're worthy. It comes from standing in your worth with knowing and allowing yourself to choose who is worthy of you. You're no longer doing the chasing, the proving, the running around to let me show you how worthy I am and deserving, but you stand in a place of knowing that you are worthy. And from that point of standing, you don't need to run, you just attract. So now, how do you shift your entire focus back to yourself? Step number one is that I want you to recognize your equal value. This is something that you might not have realized before, but you have a tendency of putting people on the pedestal, thinking that people are above you. No one is above you, and no one is more worthy than you, no matter who they are, no matter what they have. The problem is that when you put someone on a pedestal, you automatically make yourself smaller. You automatically make yourself the audience, the fan, right? So you need to remind yourself that you're not below them and they're not above you. No matter what qualities, no matter what achievements, no matter what status they might have. Your job is to remind yourself daily that my value is equal and I am not less than. This allows you to come into relationships and to stand your ground as an equal. No matter who that person is, you approach anyone with an energy, you know what? I don't know who you think you are, but I'm as worthy, as valuable, as deserving as you. And in this relationship or in this interaction, this dynamic, I will never, no matter who you are, put you above me. I will never make you God. I will never make you, and I will never put you on the pedestal for you to have the power and control over me. This way, you are able to have this power dynamic in equal terms. And in return, people respect you more for that. You will think that, oh, like this is gonna upset people, but actually people have more respect for you for doing that. Step number two, I want you to stop chasing and start choosing. So instead of asking all the time, do they like me? Flip the question around and ask, do I actually like them? How do I feel around them? Because when you're able to do that, this instantly puts you in the position of power, in the position of choosing. You are the chooser, not them. Because you're no longer seeking approval, you're no longer putting yourself, oh, am I going to be chosen? And you're putting yourself in the position of control, the person that decides if they are worth of your time and your energy. Step number three, I want you to put yourself on the pedestal. I want to turn your focus from impressing them to pleasing yourself. So, what do you want? How do you want to feel? What makes you proud of who you are? I want you to put yourself in your own spotlight. And when you do that, the need for their validation is going to start to fade, because you're already giving that validation that you're chasing straight to yourself. You're giving permission to be seen straight away to yourself and no steps in between. Step number four is to reconnect with your needs. Validation chasing is often about abandoning your own needs to secure someone else's approval. So instead, I want you to be able to slow down and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Do I feel respected? Do I feel safe? Do I feel seen? And the more you practice listening to yourself, the less you are likely to ignore any red flags and to settle for less, to accept any misbehavior, to accept people mistreating you, because you are more able to be attuned to what feels good to you. If someone treats you right, you feel that immediately, oh, this pleases me, this feels intuitively right. If someone doesn't treat you right, you are aware and you're mindful that you're mindful of the feedback that your body is giving you. Wait, this didn't feel good. This is not how I want to be treated. This is not how this is not what it feels right in my body. And so what happens is that you're able to go back and communicate with yourself and be mindful and take your emotions into account and be like, okay, I didn't like that. I'm willing to voice that regardless if this is going to upset this person. Because for me, the most important thing is being okay with myself, having my back, raising up awareness to what I feel and communicating that, and not abandoning myself, not abandoning what I feel and what I need just to not shake the waters with that person, just to keep that person comfortable. And finally, step number 5 is that you need to build self-approval as a habit. So here is very important for you to make it a daily practice to validate yourself. And you could do that through journaling, through affirmations, or just simply celebrating your wins, no matter how big or small they are. When you start doing this, you are going to understand how powerful approval becomes when it is internal. You become your own cheerleader, you become your own positive validation. And once you consistently give that to yourself, you stop depending on anyone else to give that to you and to define how worthy you are of it. And because you do that, you fill your own cup, you validate your own self, and you are able to be like, okay, I decide right now if I'm going to feel good. I decide right now how worthy I am, and I don't leave this on somebody else's hands. You stop outsourcing your power by giving that power of somebody else choosing how worthy you are, and you start giving that power to yourself. And you know what? It always has been in your power. It always has been in your hands to decide if you're worthy or not. But you thought that somebody else's opinion, somebody that is external, somebody's external opinion is more valuable, is more important than what you think. You thought that your opinion didn't matter, your opinion was biased. But actually the most whole and complete opinion is that of yourself. And as you grow older and you mature, you understand this more and more, that people's approval will always be conditional. But the only person that you can rely on to give you unconditional approval, unconditional love, and someone to see you always as worthy and deserving is yourself. So never ever outsource your source of approval to somebody else, because this will leave you being somebody else's puppet for the rest of your life, for your decisions, for your choices, and is literally giving all of your power away. That's why you need to stop chasing validation and to start choosing that you already are deserving, you already are worthy, and validate yourself instead. Once you're able to do that, you start seeing yourself as whole and complete now, as someone that is not missing anything and doesn't require another person, doesn't require anything externally to make her whole. And when you do that, you are putting yourself in a position of attracting, because now you are not half. You're not looking for someone to complete you, to fill up your cup. Your cup is whole and complete on your own, and therefore people find that attractive. And also, it's not just because of that. Your energy is different, so people find you attractive, but it's the way you behave, it's the way you respect yourself, it's the way that you show up for yourself that has a domino effect on this whole thing. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, any topics that you want me to cover in the next episodes, please let me know. If this episode hit home for you and you are realizing you have been caught in that same cycle, you don't need to keep trying to figure this all out alone. You can always reach out and connect with me directly. Ask me your questions, share what you have been going through, or even if you're ready to start breaking that pattern for good, we can talk about working together one-on-one. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, I love you, and I will see you on the next one.